Rectocele can be a really challenging problem to live with. It can be embarrassing to talk about, especially when it comes to emptying your bowels and knowing how to stop your prolapse getting worse. Hi, I'm Michelle, and today I'm going to be guiding you through how to avoid your rectocele worsening and also too the things you can do at home to repair this condition. So we're going to be going through a number of things. I'm going to be talking to you about how to empty your bowel. I'm going to be giving you some really important dietary information to help you manage your rectocele better. We're also going to be going through some rectocele repair exercises. And finally, I'll be giving you some information on how to manage emergency management for constipation if you do get constipated. Now, just before we start, I really need to explain this condition so that you understand it well, because the better you understand it, the better you'll be able to manage it yourself. So if you just take a look at this little image here, you can see this is a side-on image, and you can see just how close the rectum and the vagina are together. So they're actually nearly adjacent. So this is part of the cause of the condition. So when you have a baby, the walls of the vagina become stretched, or if you're straining to empty your bowel. And when the tissues stretch, they become floppy and weak. So if you imagine, and I've got something to help demonstrate this for you today. So you imagine this is the vagina, very long vagina. This is the front wall and this is the back wall. It's the back wall here that becomes loose and floppy. And so what happens if the rectum is right next to it? When the bowel movement comes down, it presses in. And if you can imagine this is the back wall of the vagina, the stool actually pushes in like this into the back wall of the vagina. And that bulge that you're feeling is the back wall actually pushing in with the stool pushing through behind it. So every time you use your bowel, this is part of the reason that you have problems using your bowel and you feel that dragging sensation down through and out of the vagina, is because of that tissue stretch. So what can you do to manage it? I think the first thing we need to go through is really good bowel management, and I'm going to share some really good tips with you on how to empty your bowel. So the first thing to do is to obey the urge. When you feel the need to go to the toilet, then go. Don't hold off. And the other golden rule is to never strain. So never bear down, never push down to strain. And I'm going to show you now how to empty your bowel safely and effectively without straining. So let's go through this technique step by step, and you can practice this at home. So first of all, and I'll come side on so that you can see what I'm doing. When you're sitting on the toilet, you've got the urge to go, remembering that sometimes with a rectocele you might not feel the urge, you might just feel a heaviness, so be aware of that as well. But when you do get the urge to empty, you lean forward with the inward curve in your back. So the temptation can be to do that. When you do that, you push down and you make that rectocele, that bulge that I just showed you, worse. So if you lean forward in this position, and when you start to empty, you take a couple of deep breaths, so actually 4 to 5 deep breaths. And when you relax the breathing, the pelvic floor muscles will relax and they will open up. So what we're going to do is just take a couple of deep breaths, breathing in, and breathe right into your belly and let it go. And again, breathing right into the belly and let it go. Now, what you can do then is you can get some toilet paper, wrap it round and round your hands, and you can support that area right up to the front of the anus and hold that area up as you empty. The other thing that some women find really helpful is to use a couple of fingers inserted into the vagina and support that. So you're basically stopping that from coming through. You're holding that wall upwards, if that makes sense, and that makes it easier for then the bowel movement to actually empty. If that makes you feel squeamish, which is fine, there are products available such as Femmes, and I'll leave a link below. That's a device that actually inserts into the vagina to hold the back wall, and I'll leave a link for that below as well if you're interested. So let's go back to the position and technique. So you're in that position. What you then do is you make the sound and when you say your waist goes wide, and when you relax your tummy forward, you actually open up the anal sphincter. So that then allows the bowel movement to come through. Now, I have this in much more detail in the video above if you'd like to go through that in further detail, but it's a moo to poo. So it's making your waist wide into a barrel shape and oo in that position, all in that one movement, and that is how you empty without straining. At the end of the movement then, you draw up through and lift and squeeze in and around that area to bring the tissues back up. So that's the moo to poo technique, and I'll put the link down below as well. Now, the second thing I'd like to go through today is some dietary information to help you. So your diet is really important and really important part of you managing your rectocele really well. You've probably heard about the importance of fibre, and yes, fibre is really important in your diet. We all know that. However, the temptation is to try to have a lot of fibre, and what fibre does when you're constipated, and what fibre does is actually bulks the stool and makes it larger, so that when you have a rectocele, you end up, and you're having a lot of fibre, you can end up with a really bulky stool, which is not what you want. Again, you can refer to the video above. But what happens is if that stool comes down and that pocket is sitting there like that and dries out, it becomes very hard to shift. So we'll talk about the emergency management for that in a little while coming up in the video. But basically your diet is going to, the type of diet that you have is going to affect your stool. So you're aiming for a type 3 to 4 on this Bristol stool chart, which means that you're aiming for a smooth, soft, well-formed stool, and that's the best type of stool to empty. Not too hard and not too runny, because both of those things can have an effect, or both of those types of stool can have an effect on the rectocele and your ability to empty it. Now, the second thing that I'd like to mention in terms of diet is the importance of not having foods that make you gassy. If your rectum is full and you actually can't pass gas, then you're going to be inclined to want to push down and strain. And also too, the gas can get trapped in your stomach and feel really uncomfortable as well, and you might have experienced that problem as well. So the types of foods that can cause gas are the cruciferous vegetables, and you can look those up on the internet, things like broccoli, Brussels sprouts, those greens, obviously beans. Some women have problems with lactose, and they can benefit from actually taking lactose tablets that will actually stop the lactose bloating and forming gas in the stomach. And also too, the other things that we like to, reach for when we're constipated, things like your dried fruit, because the dried fruit also sits there, creates gas, and it also too does bulk the stool. So 2 things to think about there with your diet. First of all, we were talking about the importance of not bulking your stool too much, and secondly, avoiding your gaseous foods. So what can you do to repair this condition? There's a number of things you can do. The first thing is your Kegel exercises. Now, I want to show you the pelvic floor here, and let's have a look and see what Kegel exercises actually do. I'll get you to come in a little bit closer and have a look. So, remembering that the pelvic floor muscles are underneath where you sit. So these are the sitting bones, and these are the pelvic floor muscles here, and you can see how they encircle around the rectum there. When these muscles are strong, they help to support and lift that area. Now, once the tissue has stretched inside the vagina, that's stretched and that is not going to fix. So unfortunately, that's within the vagina, that is not going to repair. However, what you can do is to do exercises to strengthen this area underneath, and that actually lifts the pelvic floor to sit higher. So it can reduce the prolapse symptoms, and it can also hopefully then prevent or reduce your risk of the prolapse getting worse. If you'd like to know more, I've got a video above on Kegel exercises for beginners, and also 2 Kegel exercises for women with prolapse, and you might like to refer to those videos for details. But knowing that when you do these exercises, it's important to be lifting and squeezing the muscles in and around the anus, so that circular area, so you're doing that action, in and around the vagina, and you're also too tightening in and around the urethra, or the opening to the urine passage. So that action is like that, and I've got all the sets and reps and the number of exercises to do linked in that video, and I'll also put the link in that below. The second thing I'd like to mention is the importance of general exercise. Now, general exercise is very important if you're living with a prolapse. When your body is fit and strong, you'll put less pressure on your pelvic floor. And aside from that, we all know the benefits of general exercise. Now, the things that you need to avoid are things like high impact exercises like running and jumping, because they are going to put pressure down on your pelvic floor, and they're the types of exercises that can make the rectocele get worse. The things to choose are things like low impact exercises like riding a bike or walking, exercises where you've got at least 1 foot in contact with the ground too all the time. It's also important to do strength exercises, and you don't need to give up the gym. If you want more information on strength exercises, you can refer to my book here on prolapse exercises, and I've got full programs there that teach you how to manage your weight, how to do your prolapse exercises, and also too how to exercise safely with a prolapse. The other thing to think about is to avoid intense abdominal exercises. So you remember a moment ago I was talking about the importance of not pushing down. When you do lots of abdominal curl exercises, you're actually training the muscles that actually push everything down. So there's some really nice alternative abdominal exercises you can do too, and they're also in the book as well. You'll also find those in other videos I've got available on YouTube. Now, let's talk now about emergency management for constipation, because this is a really big issue. I think the first thing you need to do is to anticipate when you're going to be constipated and avoid it happening in the first place. So, for example, when we go away on holidays, that's a time that many women get constipated. So try to anticipate this might be going to happen. The best products that you can actually take are Macrogol products or osmotic laxatives. Now you can see above here I've got Osmolax shown here, and also too I've got a box of Movicol here I wanted to show you as well. Now this is the flavour-free version, and I like that best because it has a less irritating effect on the bowel. But this product actually comes in sachets, and basically what you do is you mix the sachet in water and you drink it. And what this does is actually softens the stool. It draws extra fluid into the bowel, and it softens the stool, and it actually helps it to pass through the bowel, so that it helps to keep that nice, soft, well-formed stool. It's a lovely product in that it's not irritating to the lining of the bowel like some of your natural products like Senna, which actually irritate the bowel and cause dependency. These type of Macrogol products don't do that. So they're mostly safe for most women to take, and also too for children. There's a paediatric version as well. So speak to your doctor or your pharmacist about that. Obviously you do that before you take any medication. But if you get really constipated, what you can do is you can increase the number of sachets you take, and you can take up to 8 sachets a day if you're really constipated, and obviously you'd be spreading those out during the course of the day. But again, speak with your pharmacist about that. Now, let's say that's not working and there is a really hard stool blocked in through the bowel, in through the rectum. What you can do then is speak with your pharmacist about a suppository, which is like a little tablet that inserts in through the back passage. It's something like a glycerol suppository, and it will immediately help you to empty the bowel. It'll soften the stool in that area and it'll empty it. It's not something that you do regularly. It's much more of an emergency management situation. But bear that in mind. It's much better to do that and to use that rather than be straining and sitting on the toilet for a long time. You want to be sitting there for 2 to 3 minutes maximum, and that's it. You don't sit on the toilet straining and bearing down for a long time. So we've gone through a lot there, haven't we? We've talked about, first of all, what a rectocele is. We've talked about the types of foods to avoid. We talked about how to empty your bowel. And then we also talked about the importance of general exercise and Kegel exercises to repair the area. And then finally, we talked about your emergency management if you do get really constipated. So I really welcome your comments and questions about this issue, because it can be a very private issue and it's very often hard or difficult to discuss this with other people. So please feel welcome to comment, put your questions below. And if you found this video helpful, I would really appreciate it if you could give it a like below, because then YouTube will recognise this and recommend this to other women that are experiencing the same problem. So I really thank you for watching today. I really hope this video helps you manage your rectocele better, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.